Evening, folks. Yep, it's me. I'm back. I've been gone a little while. Been here actually, but indisposed and bopping around from pillar to post. Back at the Ponder Hilton tonight. My good friend Carswell Ponder in Ocala, my quarterback mentor, hosting us there for a couple of weeks. Tonight on the program, we got some very good information from some of the most informed people on Gators, and that would be, of course, Allie Peek-Wilbur, none better in her capacity. Also tonight, David Moulton returns, and Scott Carter from University of Florida catching us up on things like the baseball team, what's happening there, big game with big series with Tennessee, softball team, and keeping us up to speed with spring sports. All coming your way. We'll talk a little bit about the news on Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall just keeps making the headlines in a good way. Once again, he's back. So we'll talk about that. A lot of stuff coming your way tonight on the program here in the Ponder Hilton Hotel. And Allie Peek-Wilbur just checking in. We're coming back on the other side. Allie will be here. We'll catch you up on what we think we know about these Florida Gators. Stay tuned. Tell your friends and neighbors the Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome back to the program. I'm happy to be here tonight, back on the air after a few computer glitches. Starting my birthday, that's when it started. So I went out and did the manly thing and bought a new computer. A nice one. It was my birthday present from my wife Dawn. Got it shipped here, and guess what? They didn't get it here on time. I don't know. They said they were going to bring it by to the house a certain time. Nobody showed up. They claimed they did. You know how that goes. But the new computer is in the mail, so they say it'll be here. And meanwhile, thanks to Brendan Martin for not only hosting the show for a couple of nights, but also for fixing the old computer so it's workable tonight. We've got it working again, and Allie Peek is standing by in the orange and blue room. Let's go, waste no time, and get to, I think, one of Patrick Young's favorite podcasters, according to what he told me last night. Good evening to you, Allie. I talked to Patrick about you last night.
Oh, yeah? What did he have to say?
He wanted to know all about you, so he thought you were very impressive.
Well, that's very sweet. He is incredibly impressive.
We went to Spurrier's Grille last night with the invitation from Freddie Wiebe, the genius, and myself and my friend Tom Ingram, who also, by the way, is physically afflicted just like Patrick was in a different way. Tom had a spinal stroke about a year ago and struggling the same way physically that Patrick is, although Tom's not in a wheelchair and Patrick is. So Patrick went yesterday morning, sold a bunch of books up there yesterday.
Good, very good.
Real out, and thanks to Freddie. And then he went to the baseball game, and then he showed up last night at Spurrier's. We had a meal, and it was a fun night for all of us there. And he said to me, "Who's that girl that does that podcast on with you?" And I said, "Well, she got her own show. She's much bigger than me." I said, he said, "Well, he was impressed with you. Thought you did a really good job." So anyway, that's the latest news from Lake Wobegon. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. We just got back from tough loss playoff flag football for middle school. My nephew that lives with us now plays, and Eric coaches. So we district semifinals. So they made it almost to the championship game, but it was fun. It was it's been a totally different experience to have a middle schooler the last couple of months.
Didn't know that you had a nephew. Which peak is he? or is he not a
He's
Peak?
not a Peak. He is actually Eric's nephew, his sister's child, who came to live with us in Tampa from Orlando beginning of February. And he's been going to school with my kids. He's going to go to high school here. So there is actually now 5 children that live in the Wilbur house.
6 now, counting Eric. Yeah, so.
Really?
So anyway, all right. So we're going to be talking tonight with Scott Carter. Will join us momentarily, hopefully. We need to be updated on the baseball team, which has a 3-game series at Tennessee, I believe, starting tomorrow. I believe it is. I'm not good at this. And the softball team is pretty way. Baseball team still is in harm's way a bit here. They got to be able to get to the SEC and have a chance to play for it. So a little bit of a struggle for them there, Allie.
Yeah, it's like everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for the baseball team, and kind of got a feel for Jack Caglione. Comes back, is the most dominant player in college baseball, but plays for a team that just is having a hard time putting it together.
Yeah, one of those years. Update from Dan Bond's softball team turns a double play. Get out the 5th, up 11-4 on FSU. There you go there. That's a bit good news there, yeah. David Arnoff, who's a physician up in Northwest Florida, wants to know, what is G&K? Aggie, Allie, you do. I think I know what it is. And it's, of course, Gator Nation Kingdom, which is when this was founded 5 years ago. How long has Dan Mullen been ago? Well, we named it the Gator Nation Kingdom so we could have a cohesive group, all, as Brendan called it, a sovereign Gator Nation. So that's what and our sign-on has always been dilly dilly, like the old Bud commercial, which I guess is politically incorrect. Anyway, that's what GNK, the people who've been with us that long know what GNK is. That's what about. That Michael Burton also says, Freddie is a blessing to Gator Nation. Boy, he's killing it. Freddie Weavy is just killing it, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he truly, the change in Florida Victorious has been massive. And I think that everybody feels it. The excitement's there. The players are going to benefit from it. Coaching staff's going to benefit from it. But he's lit the fire.
He has. And I don't know how he does it because he's also done a great job. I talked about this some on Monday. I had a perfect evening there on Friday. And by the way, I paid my own bill and didn't get it free. I took my wife for 3 months, and I took my friend Carswell and my wife's sister Nell, and we went to have a terrific meal at Spurrier's. We aimed to have one, and we had one. Home run. It was just I had the biggest, best, most expensive steak I could find, and I haven't eaten steak in a while. It was everything I want. In fact, it was a ribeye. I don't normally eat ribeyes, so I ate that one. I said, that's it. I'm retiring. I'm never going to eat another ribeye. Nothing can be better than this. So everything was really good, tasty. The environment was terrific. And so, I mean, if you haven't been, look, I'm not doing a paid commercial for it. I'm telling you my experience. I didn't get it free. I paid for it. The last time we were back there for Patrick's book signing. So, you know what? Florida is very lucky to have that. There's sort of a secret weapon for recruiting, Allie.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you know anything about college football, you know who Steve Spurrier is. So to get to go on a recruiting trip, sit in his restaurant, see the memorabilia, live through some of those top Gator moments, have the opportunity to potentially see the old ball coach because he walks around in there on a regular basis. It is a secret weapon. It's pretty there. Who can produce something of that caliber? Who else?
That's exactly what was said by one of the coaches who shall go nameless. This came from someone who happened over here and walking by, telling one of the top NIL recruits, when you go to fill in the blank, they aren't going to have this there. This is one of a kind, you know.
And I don't care what you fill in the blank with, because
it doesn't matter. It's just nothing like it.
There's not. No, yeah. And the food really is good. We try and take the kids every time we go to Gainesville because they love it. They love that there is steak on the kids menu. Because my kids are huge steak eaters, and we've never not had a good meal. Everything that I have tried there has been really good.
It's good. And if you haven't been, I recommend it. And I'd be surprised if you didn't love it. The prices are not outrageous. You can go eat a hamburger there too, you know. And if you want to have the full trimmings, you can do that. So check it out, Spurrier, Gridiron, Grille. They've been there. Listen, here's a couple of facts for you, and I'll stop raving about it. They've been there for less than 3 years. They still have 67 of their original employees they hired on.
That's amazing. That means
They hire for every person gets. They interview 500 people to get one, and they are now unofficially, but officially, I know this, the most successful celebrity restaurant in the country. Do you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, the most successful. Wow. So amazing, and it's again a secret weapon. All right, so like Alec, we're going to go get Scott. He's now in the orange and blue room. Let's go get him. And I want to get an update on all things Gator, and who better to get that than the guy who does it all for FloridaGators.com, our pal Scott Carter. What's up, Scott? How you doing?
Hey guys, how you doing? You guys made me hungry there, man. Talking about all that food.
You stay hungry, Scott.
It's funny because we go there too regularly, and my kids, they love Jerry's cookies the best.
Oh yeah,
they are so good.
Yeah. I don't know. What's your favorite thing on the menu, Scott?
I'm like you, buddy. I'm a steak eater, so if I go there, choose a steak. But I'm like you guys. I don't think I've ever had anything bad. So every time my daughter, she's 13, and every time she wants to go out, she always says Spurrier's, and that's her favorite place. So, but yeah, and what you guys were talking about in terms of just having that here, that has added a lot of flavor to the little Gainesville and the UF community. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Yep. Terrence Simmons checking in tonight. Good to hear from Terrence. Always has something to say. Comparing Allie to the new Cassidy Hill, well, it's a little different. Allie's been doing this for a long time. She's got her own thing. You really can't compare her to anybody else.
Might think that you're calling her old, if that's
no. I'm a big Cassidy. I went right after Cassidy.
I'm much older than she is, so she's probably like
just a kid, just a rookie breaking in. So lots of good stuff. I said last night, I think you might be the number one female podcaster in the Southeast. I believe that to be true. That's true.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good stuff. Scott, you're here to update us. We know we got the big Tennessee series coming up this weekend. That's a make or break. They have no guarantee they're going to make the SEC tournament. I'm told they have to be at least either they ever have to have a winning record or a 500 record, which is true, Scott.
Well, I think they got to be 500. I mean, it's going to be very hard for them to do that with the schedule they have. But, I always say it's baseball. A team can get hot when you least expect it and get going. So we'll see. I know the NCAA selection committee, they want to have Jack Caglione in the postseason because he's such a big draw. I mean, it's when I think about Gators baseball players, I mean, the only other guy compares to him to me is Brad Wilkerson back in the day, to do it both ways. And obviously Wyatt Langford's story has been great, the way he's quickly made the major leagues. But I'm just excited to see what Caglione does. I asked their marketing guy the other day, I was like, man, we got to have a bobblehead doll for this guy.
Yeah, really.
For real.
So, we'll see if that happens. But fans only have a few more times to see him at home. But hopefully they'll see him in the postseason. But, he's going to need some help, guys. I mean, the pitching, as we all know, it's kind of a broken record at this point. It's just not up to what we're used to seeing at Florida. And I think they've had some guys offensively just go in slumps at different times of the year. And that's really hurt because, one guy, as we know, can't carry it all. And Jack's been consistent all year. I think he's got a 23-game hitting streak right now, which is kind of lost his power numbers. So, but we'll see. I mean, if they can get hot and, win some against Tennessee, get some confidence, I've seen a lot of stranger things happen, guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's a shame to have a player like Caglione, bobblehead, the guy ought to have a statue. Like you said, nobody's been better at this. Only guy you can compare it to is Brad Wilkerson, right?
Buddy.
Well, I think you could wind up with one. I know. What is the criterion for baseball, though? Do you have to win a championship?
That's a great one. I don't think. Well, there is no baseball statue, obviously, of Florida history. But if you're going to start with the guy, I mean, Jack would be in my top three. I think Wilkerson might get my first slot just because I think he put the Gators baseball on the map a little different. And but Jack's a special player. You got Langford, so yeah, I think they got 32 guys in the major leagues under Sully, which just blows my mind when you think about the history of the program before him.
Well, Allie, they're going to have to go some to get there, and they're obviously having a disappointing season so far. So, have you heard any rumors or any rumblings about any changes or anything like that?
But I will promise you guys, I will not go to another game this season. All 3 I've gone to, Florida has lost. So
you're the problem.
Superstitious, so I will not go the rest of the season. I'll do my part.
All right. It's it's too bad because they didn't hit well when they pitched well. They didn't, which wasn't often, and they didn't pitch well when they hit well. Couldn't get it together. We just assumed they'd get it straightened out. What about the softball situation, Scott?
Well, they're in a lot better shape. I know they're over in Tallahassee tonight winning, which is a big one for them because Florida State's kind of had their number this year, guys.
Yeah, really.
I think they've won, I don't know, 5 or 6 in a row against the Gators. So if they can go over there and win tonight, I think that's a big lift for the team. And, they're in good shape. They're in the top 10. We'll see how they close the season. But I think it all kind of comes down to really at this time of year, it's all going to be about the young pitching and are they ready for the spotlight of the postseason. And then something I didn't expect with them is, Skylar Wallace has been kind of in a slump lately.
Really?
But she's starting to show signs to come out. So if she can get going and the young pitchers pass the postseason test, I think Florida softball can play for a while into the postseason. But they're definitely going to get in. So it's not like the baseball where we're sitting here wondering if there's if they can sneak in. Softball is going to be fine. And I think, winning at Florida State tonight, if they hold on, I think that's a big boost.
Let's talk about football for a second. Allie, it kind of feels like, from people I've talked to, but on the scene, you and I have discussed this, in recent weeks, I won't say the tide has turned, but there's something else going on there. There's a counteraction. Some of the decisions of players I keep hearing, I don't know. This big USC lineman may commit with Florida, which in the portal, which is the number 1 player, I guess. That's huge. They've still gone on the recruiting trail. we know all about what the QB situation is. The defense looks like it's smarter, better. I know they got a color schedule, but are you feeling a vibe there about maybe a little change in the air for Billy Napier?
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you this the last time we talked that I really was incredibly surprised by the energy of the spring game. I really felt like fans are still all in on this. And when the season ended, I did not feel like this. I felt like that the fan base was kind of just there's nothing you can tell me until we put pads on in August. And we don't want to hear anything else until that because you got to prove it on the field. Don't tell me about the glitz and whatever going on behind the scenes. Just show me in August. But fans were super into it at the spring game. And I think that there is a little bit of optimism. I think that it just feels more competitive. It feels like there's some fire there that maybe was missing before. And maybe that's the new pieces of the coaching staff coming in. Maybe that's Billy Napier feeling like he can take a breath because the plane is built and now he needs to fly it as opposed to, flying it and building it at the same time. I don't know. I know that people were hoping we were going to make a lot of moves during this spring transfer portal season. I still think we will sign some people. I do think that Jason Zamandela will sign probably tomorrow, sometime very soon with Florida from what I'm hearing. But I also think there's so few spots that they really do have to be incredibly selective. And, it's almost this weird position. We want to get these new players in, but every player that's currently there is bought in, which is why we're not seeing any more major attrition. And, that's kind of a good problem to have, right? I mean, you do still need to upgrade some pieces, but everybody's bought in and everybody believes that they have an opportunity to make this team better. Otherwise they would have hit the transfer portal. So he's still got the locker room. And that's probably the biggest thing, right? And once the head coach loses the locker room, it's over. It's done. And that has certainly not happened.
Well, and Scott, are they down to 85 now? They had a couple guys go. One guy transferred. What's going on there with the roster?
Yeah, I mean, they lost Nunnery's the big name that left, if you want to call it a big name. They're right there at that limit. And I'm like Allie, I think that you might still see some attrition over summer. I don't think it'll be many guys, maybe a couple, because they do have some spots to shuffle with that they're going to add. They have to lose a couple, I think, to add. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I think playing off of what Ali was saying, I do agree that the program is on more stable ground than it has been really probably since 2020. At the end of 2020 is when it all kind of started falling apart with that the Cotton Bowl game where a lot of guys opted out and you could just tell they didn't want to be there. And it hasn't been the same since then. And I think, looking at the spring game, you saw some pieces out there that there's an upgrade of talent on the roster right now that has been building. And now the next big step is, going out and showing what you can do and producing some results. And it all goes back. I mean, this is the time of year where you should be positive, and I think the spring game bolstered that in a lot of fans' eyes. And I'm like them. I mean, I'm curious what it's going to look like in the fall as much as anybody else. But I do like where they're headed. I do still like what Billy's doing with the program. I think again, he's added this calming influence, this stability that was severely needed, and now it's just going to be a matter of, is it going to be good enough on Saturdays? And the season will determine that.
Yeah, I don't know whether you, Allie, or you, Scott, or even David Moulton, who's on the line here coming on just a second, heard the Derek Wingo interview on Feinbaum. They played it a number of times. Now, I'm a Wingo guy, have been since I interviewed him 2 years ago. Had him on twice and really like the depth of his personality. He's a good player, not a great player, a smart player. He and his mom have a special relationship. His mom has followed him all over. I guess he committed to Penn State originally. She was going there. Then he played high school ball in Fort Lauderdale. She went down there. And then she moved to Gainesville and opened a cupcake shop in support of Eric. And meanwhile, he has made the honor roll academic over 2 years. He's been outstanding. He's GatorBait trip they're making every year. He's going to Japan. He's everything you want a Gator football player to look like off the field. He's a very impressive man. And he made it a point to say it's a different field this year. We actually have experienced players, indicating that last year they felt like they were green totally. Yeah. Scott, did you hear that?
I did. I don't know if you saw, I actually was there with him when he said that. I did a story. I went up there with him the other day. And just, basically the story was he was hanging out with Chris Doring. He's been shadowing Chris Doring at his mortgage company. He's interning with him. And then he wants to be a broadcaster after his playing day. So I went up there with him. And, I thought he handled himself very well up there and all the different stuff he did. And, Derek's one of those guys, I call them program guys. You need those kind of guys in your locker room. He makes the good grades. As you said, he's been very involved in the GatorBait program. He represents the program well. And I think he could be a nice player for them this year. He seems like, just from talking to him the other day, he realizes that this was the 2019 Gatorade Player of the Year for Florida. So he knows that he hasn't lived up to that billing coming out of high school, but he's certainly a guy that we'll see a lot on the field this year. And he's healthy. He's back in full participation mode. So again, whether or not he has a really good season on the field or not, he's been one of those guys that has stuck with the Gators when a lot of people haven't. And I admire those guys because I think he's got his priorities right. You see so many of these guys who have left these last 3 or 4 years and they've just disappeared, guys. I mean, you just don't hear from them again. And it's like he stuck with it, used the resources that he has, and I think he'll benefit in the future from it.
I wrote an article.
Go ahead, Allie. Go ahead. Sorry.
I wrote an article probably about 2009, maybe, talking about how to build a championship team and how to build a championship program, and how, I thought the difference was that you must have program guys. And I think at the time, the example I used was David Nelson, who you guys, I'm sure remember and would probably think of as program guy. And I think like you can have a whole team of Percy Harvins and win a championship, but you're going to have to repeat the cycle the next year, right? To get back to that spot. But when you stack enough program guys and then you interject a couple Percy Harvins or an Aaron Hernandez or something like that, like it puts you over the top and you can win those championships. But Coach Napier is probably the first coach since Urban Meyer that I think has really made it a point to kind of honor those program guys and make a big deal out of the fact that they stuck around, that they're there. And I think about Urban Meyer making Vernell Brown the face of Florida football, calling him that. That's another guy that's a program guy. But I think that's a key piece to this. And I think that it's something that Napier does incredibly well.
Scott, thank you so much. Appreciate it very much for keeping us up to date on what's happening with the softball, baseball team. And you can read all about it on FloridaGators.com. Scott Carter bringing it. How are you, Scott? Thank you so much.
You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Scott Carter, one of the best. Look who's here. Look who's here, Allie. Look.
Hi, David.
Hi, Allie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, actually. Hanging in. How about you, buddy?
I'm doing all right after bouncing around with 2 or 3 days different places and having a computer go on the fritz. And finally, I'm back on the air with you two, so all the world is right. I'm a little ticked off at Dan Mullen, though. I know people are bashing him about the whole recruiting thing. He deserves a part of that, as does Billy. I get sick of these pictures of the Bahama life with Dan Mullen. Like, he's just flaunting that, what was it, $14 million payout, and he's living the Bahamas, living a good life and saying, hey. Look, Dan, one of the reasons we're in this pickle is because of you, pal, just so you know.
Well, I mean, people come after him, and, I'm sure he's read X or his wife's read it, or his people close to him have read it, and so his way of answering is to just say, well, I don't know. That doesn't really bother me much.
Let's be one clear about it.
But also, Dan hasn't gotten another job since how it ended in Florida, and Dan has wanted to get another job, so I'm sure it's bothering Dan. And you have to wonder, will Dan? I don't think Dan gets another head coaching job next. I think Dan may have to, if he's interested, he may just do the broadcasting gig for the next 20 years. But
that's fine.
But I think if Dan wants to get back into coaching, I think he's going to have to come back as a play caller.
Do you think Dan wants to get back into coaching?
Not necessarily, because, well, I'll say this, Allie. I don't know that he wants to come back as a head coach because of what Chip Kelly has talked about. Like, Dan has struck me as more of the Chip Kelly type, where Dan really just wants to call plays.
Yeah.
All right. And that's what Chip wants to do. Chip wants to run an offense. Dan wants to run an offense. And Dan's really good at calling plays.
Right.
An elite play caller is Dan Mullen. And I think that's really, I don't think Dan, really wants to play the recruiting game. And even when we settle in the next 3 to 5 years as to what it's going to take, to think about it, Dan would probably be a more successful recruiter in his next gig for this reason. It's all about, do you have the money or not?
Yeah.
It's not about relationships. It's not about hiring a staff of recruiters. It's just really simple. This is the price to get this player. Do you have it? Yes. Here you go. Here's the money. Do you want to play for us?
Mullen and Napier would probably both be more successful in each other's time of being a head coach at Florida. Napier, when relationships matter and it's being in that convincing mom and dad, would have probably been more successful. He's lost kids who wanted to play for him, but went after the biggest bag, with 100% certainty. But I think that Mullen, when you say, like, listen, you're going to come and you're going to play in one of the best offenses in college football, and here's your bag.
Exactly. How much? So you want 150? I got 150. You coming? All right, great. Done. Deal. Next.
Yeah.
Allie, I agree completely. I think if they had switched, okay, that it would have been better for all involved. I will say, and I'm glad that we're doing this today, okay, because Allie's sweet, I'm sour, I'm portrayed as, I'm negative, and I am tired of the hype. I'm sorry, 3 straight losing seasons. It's where I come from at Florida. That's completely unacceptable. No more excuses. It's time to win. I don't care. With that said, talk to somebody today whose opinion I really respect. Bud Elliott, 24/7 Sports, and I said, Bud, let's talk the Gators. And he said, I think people are being too negative about the Gators. I think Billy's actually doing a pretty good job. Okay, yeah, do they want more players? But he brought in this guy, he brought in this guy. I really think that the quarterback's going to be a star. All right. And he said, for what expectations are outside of Gainesville, he said, I'm actually a little bullish on the Gators. Once again, the over-under on Florida is the same as last year. It's 5.5. And he's like, listen, I picked over last year. I was wrong. I'm going to do it again. He said they got to get the wins early. There's no doubt. Their last 5 games are hard. He goes, but you know what? They were in position last year and still should have won 2 of those games.
The thing is that they would have hit the over had they not had boneheaded mistakes, which I think has added to everybody's frustration. Sure. I think we could have the same record, but had those games gone differently, and we would have a different attitude going into this season.
Allie, if they had closed the Arkansas and Missouri games, if they had just done nothing else, all the stupid penalty, whatever, but they closed Arkansas and they stopped 4th and whatever it was against Missouri. All right. They go 7-5, and then whatever happens in a bowl game, even let's just say they lose it and they go 7-6. Do you know how different the narrative would be this year? Do you know how different all the media talk would be if Billy, year 2 a winning season, they're on the right track. This year could be tough to do about the same record because of the schedule, but we're going in the right direction. It just that.
Imagine
that.
they beat Arkansas, Missouri, and then they hold on and pull it out against Florida State. Gator fans will be talking about us making the playoffs this year.
Well, that would be a tough ask. I mean, the Arkansas Missouri games were right there.
Much defeat from
the jaws of victory, exactly. But even if they had just done that, I mean, for that matter, they played an unbeaten Florida State team really tough. Mid 4th quarter, it's still very much in doubt. I mean, I think the Florida fan would be looking at this totally differently. The problem still, though, even 5th play of the spring game, you really wonder, is Billy and his staff just going to get the guys to do the very little things? The very little things. The stuff that at the end of the day really does make a difference between winning and losing.
And the only reason that I have some doubts about that, or one of the reasons I have some doubts about that, did you watch, I think we talked about this last week, but the Josh Tate interview with Napier? The part about special teams has stuck with me, and that's the only part that gives me a little bit of doubt going into this, because if you cannot admit that those special teams cost you those games, then we have a problem. Don't throw stats at me and telling me that your efficiency ratings say you're a top 10, knowing damn well that all the mistakes you're going to list don't factor into the efficiency rating. You're still not being honest with yourself.
Yeah. And you're, quite frankly, you're talking to us like we're stupid. I mean, it's like, did we really not see what we saw? I mean, how could you and I have watched the same movie and came to that conclusion? That's 180 degrees apart.
That is how you drew it up. I mean, and here's the thing. You could only have messed up 3 times on special teams the entire year. But if those 3 mistakes cost you 3 games, then you were shitty on special teams. That's that. When it costs you games, which it did, it's a problem.
Also, I mean, quite frankly, most of the mistakes you think are coaching mistakes. I mean, this isn't a kid that, who blocks a kid from behind when everybody knows when you see the numbers, you don't block them. This isn't a kid missing a tackle, so the guy takes it to the house. We're complaining about Billy. These are coaching errors. You're the coach. You're responsible.
Coaches need to make sure there's the right number of players out.
Exactly.
There's not two guys with the same number in the starting lineup. Coaches to have a routine down for if you're going to call Mayday or you're not. This is coaching, which is why it's frustrating to fans. We can forgive an 18-year-old making a mistake, but the coaches making them, but then telling us that it wasn't their fault is infuriating.
Well, especially since I don't know, I'm going back 30 years quickly off the top of my head. I don't remember mistakes on special teams being made like this by past Gator teams. I mean, even Coach Zook at times got criticized for certain things that happened, but not to the haphazardly way that it's happened on special teams under Napier in his first 2 years. And the other thing is, we all watch the rest of college football. Is anybody seeing this happen anywhere else?
Nope.
To the degree that it's been happening in Gainesville?
Did anybody get a penalty for two players wearing the same number on the field besides us last season? I'm going to bet no.
I've done SEC games for the last 18 years. I've done about 250 of them. I don't recall that penalty ever taking place.
And, I think, and he said something in that interview like, oh, well, those were two freshmen out there and blah, blah, blah. It's not on them to check, one. Two, Wilson switched from 21 to 3. There was a 21 in that starting lineup. So if there hadn't have been 2 3s, there would have been 2 21s. So somebody the excuse is that, they didn't get the updated numbers list down to whoever was supposed to have it, but there would have been 2 21s on there if they didn't get them the updated list. So either way, it was an attention to detail that was lost. And because we were sold on attention to detail from the first press conference, that makes it worse.
And buddy, I don't know if you agree or not, but this is where, if I was a friend of Billy, I would say to him, listen, even if you don't mean what I'm about to tell you to say, this is what you need to say next time. You need to say, Josh, if that happens again, someone's getting fired. I can promise you. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And that's the impression you want to give. That's the take you want to give, because at least you're telling your fan base, I get it. I'm taking it seriously, even if when the interview's done, you think, there's no way I'm firing anybody if that happens again.
Right. Well, and, he could have said, honestly, when we look at our efficiency rating and we're top 10, but I get it. Fans are upset that our special teams cost us games. So even though I think overall our special teams were really good, we didn't control what we could control and it cost us games. And we have put a focus on that ever since. Tell me you're working on it. You see the problem and you recognize it and you're working to make it better.
Yeah, I agree on that. All what you say, I agree with what both of you said. That shouldn't happen. Those are high school penalties. That's something made at this level. I will go back to one point. You brought up the Josh Pate interview. You brought up the special teams non sequitur, or whatever you want to call it. What intrigued me about that interview more than anything, I thought he did a good job of interviewing Billy.
Great job.
Is that he was asked early on. He asked Billy how things were looking early on the first question, and Billy turned it on him and says, "I don't know. You've been here now all day." And he had unprecedented access. He said, "What do you think?" And to his credit, he didn't really co-opt Josh Pate into the deal. He said, "Well, Coach, here's the thing." He said, "There's two different things. What you're saying you believe inside these walls sounds terrific. What you're doing looks terrific. But that perception outside these walls is different."
Yeah.
It was so, just like you said a while ago, David, the guy who said, this looks better. It does look better, feel better, whatever, but there's two different perceptions here. Depends on which one you want to buy, David's or whoever's, and there's room for both. I think the one thing I am seeing, I'm not a soothsayer here, and feeling is a little bit of a healing, but like you say, David, it doesn't matter if we don't see the results on the field next year. Let me jump in real fast and do this commercial. I've done not one yet tonight. Here's the first one. I saw Jeffrey Meldon last night.
Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. in medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV, but after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Meldon Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Meldon Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion. It was with Jeffrey last night, and I hope to be in his big scholar athlete thing he's got coming up on the 17th of May to talk to some of these young people they've singled out for their excellence on the field and in the classroom. We talked earlier about a couple of people and a couple of things. I want to get back to one. Patrick Young is really an interesting case. I've gotten to know Patrick a little bit recently. Had him on the show, interviewed him. Allie, you were on with me. I think, David, you might have caught the tail end of that. I'm not sure. And he is going through a lot right now, and we're with him last night in his book. He sold 170 books yesterday, thanks to Freddie Weeby. His book is one about his struggles after he had the accident, and it's quite poignant. If you remember, Allie, when we talked to him about it, and we asked him about remembering that time on the Nebraska roads when his car went down the side of him, he was basically paralyzed, how emotional it was, he began to weep and talking about it, was really something. I appreciate his honesty about it, because a lot of people wouldn't show you that side. Yeah. I also saw a very intriguing post that would surprise me after seeing him last night. In fact, my wife and I, like others, had our picture made with him. And he posted something today that really surprised me. There we are last night at the book signing. Dawn and I, glad to be with him there at Spurrier's Grille. He's posted today, 1 year sober, and I'm never looking back. Mm-hmm. I did not know that about Patrick. Did you all?
I didn't know it, but I did see the post, and that's great. That's good for him.
Here's a guy, David, fighting a bunch of demons, one time,
and seemingly getting stronger with age, which is awesome.
Wish him all the best. Impressive to be with him last night. And I'm sure he'll be successful on the air as he is at the SEC Network. Now, how about Ricky Pearsall? He keeps doing everything right.
Yep.
Here he is, becomes a first-round draft pick. He now is the poster boy for Florida football. That should be a logo on his shirt forevermore, like Jerry West shooting the basketball was the NBA, that catch. And now he posts, I got some big news for you. I recently enlisted in the Coast Guard. We're going to basic here in about a week, so I won't be posting here for 2 months. I'll be back as soon as I'm done with it. Please don't unfollow. I'll be posting news and stuff here, and I'm out for 2 months. We'll be back around June, July. He's going to join the Coast Guard after being drafted. I mean, how often does that happen?
How is he going to manage all of that?
I don't know. Well,
I guess when he shows up for rookie camp.
Well, you would know, Alex, that you have 6 children at home, counting Eric, and 2 sets of twins, and now a new relative that came to live with you. You'd be an expert telling him how to do it all.
I mean, I don't know. I guess he's going to sleep when he's dead, but that incredibly admirable. And I had no idea that was coming. That is a guy.
Amazing. And by the way, did you see Allie eating during the break? She hasn't had a chance to eat her dinner yet.
I'm eating dinner.
Thank you, Allie, for that. So there's that.
Pearsall.
I'm producing my show for tomorrow morning at the same time I'm sending out
well, you're a
guests.
Well, you're a KG veteran. You've done that before,
Allie and I could switch next week. I'll eat, and she could be working on something for her site.
Sure. Yeah. So anyway, here's a couple of things I meant to ask Scott about. Emory Jones signed as a undrafted free agent with the Ravens. Good for Emory. After all this time, he kind of got caught in the shuffle. He deserves better. Didn't get it, and now he's going to get a chance. May not make it to play, and so good luck to Emory. There were a few others out.
At what position?
Quarterback.
Well, that'll be interesting if they keep him at that position or not.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe they won't. I don't know. I'm assuming something I shouldn't assume it. Do you hear any? Several other players got not many. Florida got nothing in the draft. Former Gator players did. Tyron Hopper and others. Allie, can you remember who all got gobbled up there?
I saw Tyrone Prethrow. Tyron Hopper. Tyrone Prethrow. Whoa, that was a 2005 throwback. I think though nobody got drafted of any of
No,
those.
nobody got drafted.
So
former Gators did. Two former Gators. Yeah.
Who was it? Who got drafted? That was
former.
It
was you mentioned one. It was somebody I can't think of.
Okay.
Somebody else.
Well, I just think it highlights the lack of talent that we had here. I mean, even guys that transferred out weren't successful other places. It wasn't that their talent was being misused here or anything like that. And I think that it really did show you that cover was kind of bare. Florida had one guy that was not a guy recruited by Dan Mullen. That is somebody brought in by Coach Napier. And I think that in the coming years, you're going to see a heck of a lot more guys drafted, more of the numbers that Florida is used to. But, pretty uneventful draft for us. But I do think it's really important to highlight Billy Gonzalez in all of this. I think that I don't know if you've heard the same things, buddy, but I, for the past year, have heard we should get a new wide receivers coach. Like maybe they won't renew Gonzalez. Maybe, we can get somebody in here. We need a better recruiter. Maybe he's not the best recruiter in college.
He's a hell of a wide receiver coach.
He develops wide receivers like Billy Gonzalez right now. So maybe somebody else should pick up the slack if you think it's there, because he is going to develop you and get you to the league. And when you think about the list of guys and the different stops he's done it at with different head coaches, he is so underrated on this staff. He is probably had the most growth in his position last year, any other position group. It's one of the most solid going into next year. Billy Gonzalez needs a round of applause.
And quite frankly, going forward, you need to hire more Billy Gonzalez's because you're really not hiring good recruiters anymore.
Right.
It's all about, do you have the money or not, period. So, and hopefully we're going to get some kind of salary cap or confines that everybody's going to be operating on a little bit more of a, similar playing field, but we'll see. That could take a couple more years to play itself out. You need guys getting coached up, particularly since right now Florida's at a talent disadvantage. In a perverted way, I'm actually glad that the draft numbers are as glaring as they are, because you could be the Gator fan that is so down on Napier and what is going on, and the draft is just a cold bucket of water in the face to say to anybody, we didn't have any talent.
Right.
And if we did, it's unbelievably young because it's not even draft eligible yet. I mean, there's no denying that truth. That's not an opinion from David and Allie. It's just not. It's right there in black and white.
It is a fact. I can tell you that one of the guys that is heavily involved with raising money for our recruiting classes told me that he has told Coach Napier, win 7 games, and I promise you a top 3 class. The money is what is motivating these signing classes. That money increases when wins increase. And it is one of those things, the chicken or the egg. But if Coach Napier can figure out a way to get to 7 wins and we do sign a top 3 class, the ball's starting to roll.
Well, things are changing. How about Florida being called a new Ivy League
school. Do you guys see that? Picked up one of the 8 new schools, or the Ivy School. So one more thing to brag about there. Now I'm reading also.
I got to be honest with some of the things going on off the field at some of the Ivy League schools. I actually don't know if I'd want that designation right now, to be honest with you.
Florida is handling things, which
I was going to say, I think a couple of the Ivy League schools could maybe learn something from the way the University of Florida's.
That's true. By the way, that's something to be said for the fact of not having names on the police blotter this summer so far, knock on wood, which is something they've had in the past. By the way, if you don't like the football program, you can always pull for the hockey team. They won the Division II, and now they're going to Division I next year. So, David, you have a little background. You like hockey, so how about it?
Well, in Division I of the club level, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. I do know a little. So there's 3 divisions of the club level. I know a little something about it when I was involved in FGCU for 20 years.
Yeah.
Their club team has won multiple national championships. I forget what level they were at, but listen, hockey's been proven. Some of the best junior hockey programs in the country are in Tampa and Fort Myers. I mean, they're producing NHL players. Okay, they're being led by former NHL players. Dave Andrechuk's got a great program going in Tampa. Former NHLers and minor leaguers have it going. Ryan Brindley's kid just, led Michigan to back-to-back Frozen Fours, got drafted by the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's a kid born and raised in Fort Myers, Florida. I mean, just like Austin Matthews is from Phoenix. I mean, I would love to see Division I college hockey flourish in the South and the Southwest. I don't know if it ever will. It's expensive, the whole deal. But I would love it if the day came that the Gators had a varsity level hockey program. I think we're 15 years away from that, but I think it'd be awesome.
He's a serious guy when he says hockey. The H is silent, That's
hockey.
Pretty serious, yeah. All right, another thing is,
I could throw a fake Canadian accent out as you want to.
Good. Give it to us. Go on.
I mean, I could do it. It's kind of like near the British Open when I throw my fake,
My best friend's Canadian. I know how to say that, yeah. How about Mark Cuban starting a company called Campus Inc., where they have their own in-house? Florida now have a new NIL apparel vendor. You know that?
No, I didn't know
that.
that.
Yeah, just reading this off Twitter today. Florida NIL store Campus Inc. company backed by Mark Cuban. There's something don't think about, but hey, who knows, right? Could be, yeah. All right, guys, let me do this real fast because I'm getting really behind. Before you guys go, I got to get this in because I want your beautiful faces on the screen.
All right, Allie, eat some more. I think he's giving us time.
No, yeah, but you can do.
I'll book a guest and you snack.
We'll have to eat on camera. Go ahead. But I just want to tell them about our sponsors and certainly
eat, Allie.
Yeah. That would be nice if she could get her dinner tonight because she needs her energy. I want to tell you about our allergist ad lib at TitanMRI.com. They're a company that's now getting bigger and bigger in north central Florida, Ocala, Gainesville area. What's good about them is you can go in there and get a special date for an appointment. It can be at night, weekends. They'll accommodate you on your schedule. They also say, if you don't have insurance, no problem. They'll take cash or card. It's not that expensive. And they have special kind of boards that makes the hole wider, which means they won't have to cram you in a little space and give you claustrophobia. The customer experience is good at TitanMRI.com. If you're in the area and you need to have a MRI, check them out, TitanMRI.com. All right, guys, so where do we go from here? What's the summer going to be looking? What are you looking for? Maybe a few athletes, Allie, to score in the Olympics. A couple of Gators there, maybe, or what? What do you think?
I mean, I'm going to heavily watch what happens with gymnastics for the next few weeks. There is an opportunity. Kayla DiCillo is somebody that could be on there. Sky Blakely is somebody that could make the team. Leanne Wong is somebody that could make the team. Trinity Thomas has an outside chance of making the team. When you think about the fact that there could be that many Gators, it's pretty exciting. My little girls do gymnastics at a decently high level, so they're super excited to watch. But I think I can't remember what Olympics it was, but a couple of Olympics ago, one of the big topics was that UF had enough athletes in the Olympics that they would have ranked like in the top 20 of countries if they were their own country competing. We have so many Olympic athletes that walk our campus, and it is fun to cheer for, obviously always cheer for the United States, but cheer for that other aspect of it as well, our Gators. But as far as the summer for football, I'm interested to see what happens with these June visits. Florida had that weekend where they got like 8 or 9 commitments. It was huge. The summer was an incredibly prosperous time for us recruiting wise. And I think the strategy there was get them to commit and then play defense as opposed to get into the season having to play offense. It's easier to convince a guy to honor his commitment than it is to get him to make a commitment when you're looking at the numbers that, our record ended up being. It's going to be harder to do that this year, though, because as a recruiter, you're selling hope or you're selling wins. And it's harder to sell hope in year 3. And he doesn't have the wins. So, he's got his work cut out for him, but this class already has some names in it. And hopefully we have another big June.
Great point. David, you'll be caught up in a little baseball. Jacksonville is a Bravo city. I see the Rays got into a brawl yesterday. The series got tossed out and a little scuffle there in Milwaukee.
They did, and they lost again today. They're in last place in May. That hasn't been the case for a while.
Yeah.
Gator softball about to beat Florida State. I think they're up 13-7 in the
bottom of the
7th inning. Here's what I'd love to see for the Gators. The football program get off to a good start. And I think the Miami game, remember last year we circled the Tennessee game?
Mm-hmm.
We thought that if the season had a chance for success, they had to beat Tennessee. And sure enough, they did, and they were in position to have a successful season, and then they couldn't close. Well, the schedule's just as hard this year, the last 5 games, so you figure they got to make headway early. What I would love to see happen is the Gators be like 5-1, something like that.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, Strickland give Napier an extension. Absolutely. Just flat out do it and just say, guys, this is it. We got the right guy. We're on the way. By the way, the next 6 weeks could be rough. Take a look at who we're playing. I mean, they're all preseason top 15, I think, right now, is who they finished the year with, their last 5 opponents.
Yeah.
And just say, I'm serious. Remember when, and I know it didn't work out, but, there have been coaches who early in their tenure, the AD has doubled down and said, listen, here you go. We're in this together. I honestly, if I'm Strickland, if I get off to a 4-1 start, I'm giving him an extension. Even if, quite frankly, it's not a real extension. You know what I mean? Add years, but not necessarily dollars, if you know what I mean. But I'm telling you, I think, because Allie, it goes to what you're talking about. Let's just say, summer is going pretty well here and they're getting people to commit. Well, who are they committing to? Okay. Right. If I'm telling you, if I'm Strickland, never mind the fact that 5-star quarterback is the future. And if Napier's not here, there's a good chance he ain't going to stay. I'm telling you, if I'm Strickland, I am just looking for the opportunity to publicly go all in. And then this way Napier and his staff can turn around to all those recruits and go, well, obviously we're not going anywhere.
That every coach that recruits against Florida is going to say, you won't actually ever play for this staff.
Exactly. And don't wait for the final 5 games where, quite frankly, they could go 1-4 or 0-5. Seriously. I mean, they're all expected to be preseason top 15, their last 5 opponents. I mean, Florida could be a pretty good team and go 1-4 in their last 5. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, people are saying this could be the hardest schedule a college team has ever played.
Yeah.
At least this century so far. And I'm telling you, if I'm Strickland, I am just begging for the opportunity to push all my chips in. I thought he should have done it already. That's, to me, the best case scenario. They're 4-1. Strickland holds a presser, announces an extension. We're all in and just walk off stage.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I think that something needs to happen one way or the other. You're right. Hey, guys, great job, both of you tonight. Thanks to you and Scott Carter for bringing it tonight. Allie, thank you for sacrificing your dinner and all the things you do and so the wonderful stuff that you add. Appreciate it. Tell Eric thanks for letting us borrow you every now and then. David, we're glad to have you too, by the way. So just, it's a package, sweet and sour. I can't break them up. What am I going to say?
I feel like that relative who shows up at the holiday, and most everybody goes, "Man, I was hoping he wouldn't come." But hey, great to see you.
I'm glad his wife came, but really,
yeah, exactly. Allie, be well.
Good stuff, right, David. Thank you, David. Thanks, Allie.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Two of the best, Allie and David, every Wednesday night. Honored to have them as regulars on the program. It's unlike anything else out there. We're happy that they honored me by being on. I just want to speak of being honored. I appreciate my friends over at Renstar Medical Research who've honored me by sponsoring my show now for like 6 years. So grateful to Joe and Mary and the team over there at Renstar, not just for what the sponsorship of what they give me, but what they do for their community. Always looking for us to have a more healthy community, and they do this by clinical trials. They really are important. They want you to know why. The clinical trials exist to bring new therapies to the public safely, and clinical trials would not exist without the commitment of you, the volunteers. So if you decide to participate in this program with Renstar, you may receive study-related medications and procedures at no extra cost to you or your insurance company. You may gain access to new investigational medications or devices not otherwise available, and receive compensation for time and travel. Go on to Renstar.net, find out if you can qualify. And as Renstar is a medical research dedicated to bringing new opportunities to participate in medical science to our local community. An important part of that commitment is helping you answer questions about volunteering for our clinical trial. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers for the health questions of today. Many thanks to everybody, including for Brendan, for sitting in for me for a couple of nights, for repairing the old computer till the new one gets here. Tomorrow should be a brand new computer. We're excited about that. My wife bought it for my birthday. Thank you, Dawn, for that. Again, thank you to Carswell Ponder. What a tremendous person he's been for us. Great fun being here with Carswell for the last couple of weeks, staying in his beautiful home and allowing us to use the facility in the Ponder Hilton. So thank you, Carswell. Have a good night, folks. We'll back at you tomorrow night with the Orange and Blue Thursday. Ben and the guys, come and join us. We'll have some fun again. Good night.